All right, hello again, everyone. My name is Jason Lehman. I'm the marketing team lead here at Fishbowl Solutions, and I would like to thank you for attending our webcast today as we're going to talk about our Google Search Appliance Connector version 3.0 for Oracle Web Center content. Today, I'm happy to be joined by my colleague, Kim Nagard. Hi, Kim.
Hi, everybody.
And Kim is going to be covering the majority of the presentation. Before I move on to the agenda, a couple of housekeeping items that I'd just like to quickly go over each time we do a webcast. And the first one being that in case you're wondering and you'd like to share this webinar with a colleague who can attend, or if you'd like to listen to it again in the future, you'll be glad to know that we are recording the webinar. So anyone that did register will be getting a follow-up email with a link to the recording. Also, if you have questions during the webinar, we are taking questions and we'll field questions at the end of the call, but you can enter your questions in the questions box in the GoToMeeting interface. So in the little panel on your right, you'll see a questions box. You just simply enter your questions there at any time during the webinar, and at the end we'll go through those questions and answer them accordingly. So here's our agenda for today's discussion. First off, Kim will be covering some of the problems inherent with finding information in an organization, the trouble that people have just finding the most relevant information for them to help them do their job, and some statistics that Google has provided, with regards to the overall search problem in the enterprise. The majority of the conversation will focus, though, on the Google Search Appliance and its features and capabilities that are now being exposed within Web Center content. So Kim will be giving a demo of the new version. Just a point there is that the demo is taking place in Web Center content, so the features and functionality that you'll see are relevant to that system, but those new features can also be exposed in Site Studio-based websites or Web Center portal as well. And then she'll follow up with what are the actual details around the connector, how does it all work, how does it all come together, and what are the security options that are exposed within the new version. And like I said, at the end we'll take questions. So at this point I'll turn it over to Kim.
Thanks, Jason. So Fishbowl as a company, our overall mission is to help customers solve frustrating, costly knowledge sharing problems. And so we've been an Oracle partner for the last 14 years. Our history is rooted in Oracle Web Center content stuff. And we provide enterprise consulting services and packaged software for Oracle Web Center, including things like Inventory in a Box, mobile applications, and then Google Search, which is what we're talking about today. But we're also a Google partner. And so one of the things I want to start out by talking about is how we kind of got to this point of integrating Fishbowl, Oracle, and Google. And so why partner with Google? Fishbowl, we want to be able to provide the best solutions to our customers. And so we believe Oracle Web Center is a leading content repository. But throughout the past 14 years of being in business, we've seen a lot of challenges around search. Oracle has tried different things to solve the search challenge. There was Verity, there was Oracle Text Search, Database Search, Secure Enterprise Search. But we haven't really seen them succeeding in solving that search challenge. And so 3 years ago, Fishbowl decided to also become a Google partner and to look at integrating the Google Search Appliance with Oracle Web Center, because we believe that Google is the world leader in search, and if we want to provide world-class solutions, we want world-class search to be part of that. And so in 2012, to partnering with Google, and that is where it brings us here today to talk about integrating the next generation of search with Oracle Web Center content. So what are some of the frustrations, some of the problems we've seen that really led us to develop the Search Appliance Connector? And there's a number of these things. The first one is really user frustration with search. Again, we've been working with Oracle Web Center for 14 years, and we've heard a lot of different organizations, users, IT, someone forgot to put the right metadata on it, so now it's not showing up in the right place, which means users spend a lot of time looking for content. They're going to maybe complain to IT. I know a lot of you joining us on the phone today come from the IT side, and you're probably the ones who they all come to and say, well, it's not working, which also leads to the next bullet here, low adoption. You might be facing, users don't want to use WebCenter, they don't want to put their content there. Departments might be, resisting new projects or increased rollout because they feel like, oh, it's not a good user experience, it's not a good search experience, I can't find things. And that's really the problem that we're trying to solve with the Google Search Appliance connector. And the next piece of that is the difference that users have now when they go home and they search on the internet. They probably use google.com. It's easy to find things. They know how to use it. It's intuitive. And that's a very different experience that they get when they come to work and they use WebCenter. And so we want to bring that easy-to-use google.com internet search experience into WebCenter content. So the problems that we face with WebCenter search, those aren't unique to just WebCenter. Those are things that are actually shared across a lot of organizations using a number of different systems to organize their content. In fact, quite a few analyst firms have done a lot of research on this topic of enterprise search. And some of the things they've found is employees spend between 25 and 38% of their time on unsuccessful search. So 25%, that's just the amount of time spent looking for information, looking for things, searching. And then 38% adds in the time they spend actually recreating things that already exist in the enterprise because they couldn't find them. They thought maybe it doesn't exist because I can't find it, or I know it's out somewhere, but it's better to just recreate it than to keep looking. And this problem isn't getting any easier either. Forrester tells us, on average, enterprises are seeing 61% data growth every single year. So that means every single year you have more and more noise to sift through to find the things that are most relevant to your users. So without good search to do that, it leads to a lot of frustrated users and a lot of wasted time spent searching. So obviously you all have used google.com. You know what the search experience there is like, what I'm talking about. But what I want to do here quickly is walk through some of the things specifically that Google does that drives this experience, that drives customers to have that really easy to use experience at home. They go home, they know how to find things, they know how to use it, and they come to work and they're frustrated because the experience is different. How did Google really create that transformation in search experience? And one of the ways that they've done this is through their scale. Google has, they're the largest search engine in the world. Over 70% of the world's search traffic goes through google.com, and their index is over 30 trillion URLs, so that's immense. And the next largest, I believe, is like 4 trillion, so quite a bit smaller. And so because of this scale, they're able to learn things from all these queries and improve it over time. And so one of the ways they do this is with experiments. They want to know, if I want to change something to find out what's really most relevant, they'll change it for a small amount of the users that come to google.com, and then they'll see, did that create more clicks? Did that create better relevance? Are people clicking on the things at the top? Are they clicking on more of the links on the page? And if that change created a better experience, they'll roll that out, and if it didn't, they won't. And so they're doing thousands of these tests every year, and they're rolling out more than one change a day on average to their search algorithm. So there's a huge amount of investment in Google. Their business is search and finding the most relevant items and surfacing up to users. So when we think about the Google Search Appliance, all this testing and knowledge and learning that Google gets from google.com, that's going to go into the Google Search Appliance and into the enterprise for enterprise search. And so when we talk about, what is the value of search inside of your organization, you have all different kinds of people, finance, marketing. People need information to do their jobs, and so by providing them with the most relevant information the most quickly, they are able to find the things they need to do their jobs and take action faster rather than spending, anywhere from 1 to 2 days a week just looking for information, getting ready to do their job. So before I get into the demo, I want to talk about how do we actually do that? What does the search process look like? And so you can think about the search process as kind of having 3 pieces: interpretation, ranking, and results presentation. And so what I want to do is walk through each of these pieces and kind of talk about what that means for enterprise search and what that means for search inside of WebCenter, and what are some of the features that the Google Search Appliance and Fishbowl's Google Search Appliance Connector bring to the search experience to fit each one of these pieces and create that full, complete search experience. So the first one of these is query interpretation. And query interpretation really starts at the point where someone starts typing. And this is the process of figuring out, what is someone really looking for when they're doing a search? What is the question they're really trying to answer? And so there's a number of ways that Google does this, and that the Google Search Appliance comes into the enterprise and provides these things inside of WebCenter. So the first one being type ahead suggestions. So we know that on average, when users perform a query, they're only going to type in 1 or 2 words. That's not a lot of context to really figure out what do they want. But some users are going to type in more. So what we can do is type ahead is as someone starts typing something in, we can provide to them all the other past popular queries to try to guess what are they looking for, interpret what are they really asking. And so if they see something that they might not have otherwise provided that much context, now you have 3 or 4 words of context instead of just 1. So that aggregation of past queries to use machine learning and try to figure out what the user is actually looking for, that's one of the ways that type ahead can improve query interpretation. 2 of the other ways that it can do that is one with spell check. So you see here WebCenter has a space. It shouldn't have a space. So the suggestions are going to realize from the ways that it's typically spelled and the ones that other people are searching that what you're really looking for is probably WebCenter, 1 word, not Web Space Center. It's going to suggest that. And along those lines, something else that the Google Search Appliance brings, not only to type ahead, but to understanding searches in general, is stemming. So Google has hundreds of linguists employed looking at the way people use language, the way people use words, and constantly understanding that from the queries that people are putting in on Google.com. And that also carries into the enterprise with the Google Search Appliance. So for example, if someone searches for the word weld, it's also going to know, well, that also means welding, welded, weld. Those all carry the same meaning. And so instead of just looking for the exact version of the word that the user typed in, it's going to expand the query to look at all of those other forms of the word automatically. And along those lines, the last thing I want to mention here in regards to query interpretation is synonyms. So stemming is something that comes with the Google Search Appliance, kind of looking at natural forms of words in the English language. But they also provide a way for admins to easily go in and add custom synonyms. So you can say, in my organization, I have certain terminology where, one person calls it one thing, someone else calls it something else, but it's really the same thing. And so in the past with WebCenter, if you search on, search on WebCenter, but someone checked it in as spelling, or UCM, someone's not going to be able to find that content because they don't know what someone else called it. So by creating custom synonyms for the language that matters in your organization, you can eliminate some of those problems with search where I didn't find it because I didn't know what someone called it, and we have 3 or 4 names for the same thing. So once we interpret really what is the user asking, the next piece of the search puzzle is really showing them the most relevant information based on understanding. That's where relevance comes in. Google has what they call signals. It's really all the things that the Google search algorithm looks at to determine which content is most relevant, which 10 things should be on page 1, what should be the first hit, the second hit, etc. And so the same way that that happens on Google.com, Google has a search algorithm to do this for you inside of the enterprise. And just an example of some of the things that they look at to determine relevance is things in the document. So how many times do the keywords occur? But not just how many times do they occur, their proximity to each other in the document, how many times they occur relative to other documents, are they inside the headings? They might be more important if they're in a heading than in the body. Things like metadata. If a keyword is in the title of the document, that probably carries more weight than if it's somewhere else. Or how many occurrences if brochure is both in the doc type and the title, well, that might be more important than something where it's only in the body. Also looking at freshness, date. When was it last modified? How often is it changed? And along those lines of date, the Google Search Appliance also provides capabilities for admins to go in and kind of do some coarse dialing in of relevance. So how old is a document in your organization before it should be considered old? And how much weight do you want date to carry? The Google Search Appliance provides capabilities for admins to tune that so that it best fits your needs. You can also do that based on where the document coming from or certain metadata values. For example, we use the Google Search Appliance on our public-facing website. You can actually go out to fishbowlsolutions.com and try it out. And one of the things we use out there is we have a lot of press releases on our website. And so when we first rolled it out, we were seeing those kind of taking over some of the search results. And so we were easily able to go in without biasing 2 or 3 clicks, say, you know what, kind of tone those down a little, and then we were seeing what we were expecting. So easy things like that to not only get great relevance out of the box, but then be able to see it improve over time. And that is a great transition into the last thing here, which is self-learning score and behavioral signals. One of the best ways to know is what do people actually click on once they do a search. That's the thing they're looking for. That's what's relevant. And so the Google Search Appliance includes a lot of click tracking capabilities and what they call self-learning score, which is really over time it's going to look at what do people click on, what are they going to page 2, are they going to page 3, which navigation items are they clicking on, and how is that, and then understand that in a way to give them better results in the future. So you search for something and everyone's clicking on the 8th thing down, well, over time that's going to slowly bubble up to be the first thing if that's what people are clicking on, because that's what's relevant. And so Google has over 200 different things that they look at, and this is their secret sauce, their algorithm, so they don't disclose all the ways that they do this, but there's over 200 different ingredients. Versus the search that comes out of the box with Oracle, there's only 2 things that they look at, and that's how many times does the keyword appear in the document full text, and then how many times is that relative to everything else in the document. So all these other things that Google's doing, you just don't have that flexibility and that sophistication out of the box with Oracle Web Center, and that's why Google is able to provide such better results. And with that, one of the other differences, besides relevancy with Oracle Web Center, that you're really going to see is just a difference in the search model as a whole. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this standard search page in Web Center. You've got a whole bunch of metadata fields to fill out. It's kind of clunky. And a lot of times what will happen is users are going to fill out a bunch of fields, try to find what they want, click search, and no results. And now they got to go back to the big form and figure out, which one of these metadata fields that I typed in is what's messing up my results. And so that's very different than the Google model, which is to really say, tell me everything you know about this document. Tell me everything you know about what you're looking for. Type in some keywords, and then I'm going to provide you with some suggestions. And then once you do your search, providing users with ways to then filter that down. And so shown here is one of the ways we do that with dynamic navigation, which is like metadata facets. Google talks about search as really having a conversation with the user. So the user does a search, you give them some suggestions, you present them with some results. And then if that's not what they're looking for, you give them some additional options to kind of filter that down. So instead of saying, here, fill out this big metadata form to begin with, you say, tell me some keywords about what you're looking for. And if the first few things aren't what you want, well, tell me some more. And then we'll kind of have a conversation. And so the user feels like they're being listened to, and it's easier to guide them in a more conversational way to the item that they're actually looking for to do their job. And so presentation is obviously a very important part of search, and that's really one of the things that we're focused on with this 3.0 release. So Fishbowl Solutions released the first revision of the Google Search Appliance Connector back in May of 2011, shortly after we became a Google partner. And the first release was really focused on kind of the back end. So providing that ability to index content. It was really focused on public content, putting the Google Search Appliance behind things like public site studio websites. So that was the first release, really focusing on the back end and indexing. The second release came out at the beginning of last year, 2012, and that release was kind of then the next steps, which was introducing some basic UI functionality to have Google search results natively inside of Web Center, and then on top of that, to have some limited UI capabilities, and then to provide secure search. So if you're using this internally on Web Center content, obviously you only want people to get back what they should see. And the second piece of that is being for things like intranets and websites. Being able to do secure search on your portal or in your site studio intranet is obviously very important. So the second release was kind of focused on those pieces. So the third release, what the real goal of it is to redesign the Web Center search interface as a whole transform the way that people use WebCenter and interact with and locate content to really mirror more of the Google search experience, because Google is really a leader in search experience, and to bring that familiarity inside of WebCenter, expose that to users within WebCenter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a demo of 3.0 connector, and this is going to be running inside of Oracle Web Center content. But all the things that you're going to be seeing are also available. So what I'm going to show is the out-of-the-box UI. You can do the same types of things and expose these same features with the GSA inside of Web Center Portal or Site Studio websites. And so some of the things you're going to see in the demo are kind of creating that conversational search experience, using filters to do metadata facets, to preview documents, to use categories, and then some ways that end users can directly impact the search experience, and then as well as ways to actually extend search beyond Web Center to bring in items from other places and information from other places. So with that, I will go ahead and switch over here. So now we're here inside of Oracle Web Center content, and this is the home page and the starting point for the 3.0 connector. So this is an optional home page you can enable on Web Center content to really make the first thing you see when you log in be a simple search page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start typing. So what you see is as soon as I start typing, I'm going to get some of the type ahead suggestions like you would see on google.com. So I'm going to just type in HU and I get Human Resources Policies. And this is a way to get more context out of your users. All of these suggestions are automatically aggregated from what other people are searching for. So administrators don't have to go in and spend a bunch of time trying to figure out what are the things we need to suggest. This is going to happen for you with the GSA automatically. And you can do things like provide a blacklist. So if there's terms you don't ever want to see, you can prevent some of that stuff from happening. But by and large, this is a pretty self-sufficient suggestion model where anytime people are searching, it's keeping track and it's going to provide that. So I'm going to go ahead and search for Human Resources Policies. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold, so if I sound a little raspy, that's why. So I go ahead and search for Human Resources Policies. And what you're seeing now, again, is right inside of Web Center content, a very Google-like search results page. And so I'm going to take a look at my results. I think this first one here, this looks like what I'm looking for. I can see the summary. I can see some of the metadata. And I want to make sure, is this really what I want? So what I can do here is use something called the document preview. So just go ahead and mouse over and click on it. And what this is this is a preview generated by the GSA. This is one of the new things available with 3.0. Google introduced this in the 7.0 release of their connector. And so now, without even having to open up the document, I can quickly see, is it what I want? And not only can I see the first page, but I can actually page through all the pages of the document and make sure this is actually what I want very quickly. And I say, yep, this looks like what I want. So now I'm in Web Center content. I still want to be able to do the normal actions that I would want when I'm inside of Web Center. So we haven't taken that away. So if I go here, now I can have some of those control. I can do, get the content info. I can open up the native file. I can check it out. I can check in similar. I can generate the email link to send this document to someone else. So I'm very quickly start typing what I want, hit search, boom, there it is, first top of the list. Now, you're not always going to get exactly what you want the first time right top of the list, especially if maybe you don't really know exactly what you're looking for, but you kind of know, in general, I'm looking for some policies. Maybe I'm not sure which policy. So then what we can do is provide some filtering capabilities to narrow that down. And the first way we can do that is with dynamic navigation. So that's what you see over here. Dynamic navigation is something that comes with the Google Search Appliance, and you can use any of your metadata. So here I'm showing content type, department, and author. But this is really easy to set up with whichever metadata fields might be most important for your organization. So it could be client, it could be product line. It's very flexible. So I'm going to go ahead and click on policy, because I think what I'm really looking for is an actual policy. So click on that. Now my results are narrowed down. And one of the new things that we've introduced with 3.0 is the ability to use type ahead within your dynamic nav. So for example, something like author. You might actually have hundreds or more of different authors, contributing content in your organization. So if I know I want something that Wendy checked in, well, I don't want to scroll through a list of 100 or 1,000 names just to find that content. So what I can do is I can go ahead and click right in here, start typing Wendy, and I see, oh, yep, that's what I want. Click on that, and I can very quickly be directed to the specific author and the specific document that I'm looking for. So dynamic navigation is just one of the ways we can filter content. Another way we can do that is kind of by categories or specific metadata fields. So a lot of times people say, I know what I'm looking for, the keywords I'm looking for, they're specifically in the title of the document as opposed to anywhere associated with that document. So what we've introduced with 3.0 is these search segments. You can see these at the top of the search box. So I'm in search by title. I know I want human resources policies in the title, and my search results are quickly limited to only those documents. From here, I can see these are the 2 documents that have these in the title. Now, perhaps by providing these filters, you can actually configure these to be whatever metadata fields are most important to your organization. So here I'm showing title, author, project name, but this could be client name, this could be project number, what makes sense for your users. And so by doing this, we're trying to kind of get away from that model of fill out a big metadata form and hope you pick the right thing. But of course, there are still times when you want to be able to get at that metadata form. So we haven't taken that away. If I want to see that, I can go ahead and click Advanced Search, and then I'm presented with the typical metadata type of search capabilities that I'm used to in WebCenter content. So for example, if I knew that I wanted a document from this week, I could go ahead and click on content item released from this week, hit search again, and now my results are limited by release date. I can see that right here. Again, if I decide that isn't what I want, I can very easily back out of that and see what I had before. So what I've shown you now is some of the ways that we can filter results to kind of guide users to what they're looking for. So now what I want to do is show you some other ways that end users can really enhance the search experience. I'm going to go ahead and start a new search. And I'm going to search for tech support. I'm going to go ahead and search for tech support, and now you see it's similar. I have my core results, I have my dynamic nav, but I'm also showing some new things over here on the right. What these are is user-added results. Google introduced these in version 7 of the connector, and we've exposed them as part of the version 3 connector. And what this does is it lets people in the organization who know the content, who know the information, help extend the search experience by contributing results. And these can be things that are inside the content repository, or they can be things that are outside of your organization. So for example, I'm searching for tech support. Adam said, when people search for tech support, they might want support with Google, or Rachel added Microsoft Office support. So if I have a question about, how do I do something in Word, I might find that out here. And so it's really easy to add new results. So I'll go ahead and do that. Type in Oracle support, and I'm going to link to support.oracle.com. Save that, and now you can see a new user-added result gets created. It says Oracle support. It has my picture next to it, so you know who added it. It says who added it to provide a little bit of context. And right now we have this set up to just push them all out, but you can also have moderation for these. So Google does provide a mechanism if you don't want just anyone putting stuff out and having it show up right away, where administrators can go in and moderate the user-added results before going to other people. And along those lines, Google also has a feature called Key Match, which has been around for a little while, some of you might be familiar with, and that provides a similar type of kind of featured result capability where admins are going in and adding these things as opposed to having users contribute them. So you have the flexibility to extend this to your users as well as having your admins or having marketing or communication saying these are things we want to highlight. So this is one way users can contribute to the search experience. Another way they can do this is with user-added related queries. So related queries is something that Google has allowed administrators to do for a while, and Fishbowl is exposing this now to end users with the 3.0 UI. So, for example, when someone searches for tech support, if I want to say, you know what, I know a lot of people search for tech support and they're really looking for information from the help desk, I want to suggest help desk. So I can do that. I can say, when a user searches for tech support, suggest help desk. And I can save that. I'm going to see you could also try help desk presented to me right at the top of the page. And so that's a way to help users find things that might be related to what they're looking for, but not exactly the same. The next thing I want to show up on this screen is this My Content module over here. And what this is a way to kind of have content server modules show up on your results page for very specific purposes. So what this is showing my content. So anything that I, Kim, checked in that's at all related to the query that I provided, which is tech support. So I have some technical articles here on how to do various things related to the Google Search Appliance that I've checked in. And so this is going to show me my most recent content as opposed to things that might be most relevant in general to my query. Because we found that a lot of people are looking for things that they checked in. This provides a quick way to do that. And you can do other things with these modules. You can have it be recent news. You can have it be recent content in general. And so this is going to show up as I go to search for Google Search Appliance in the main search box. I would get those same items in my core results tab. And for those of you who are familiar with the GSA, what this is actually doing is allowing the content server to function as a one-box provider. So this is actually a one-box module of the content server. And this is similar to the way you see certain boxes of content on public Google, such as weather or stock quotes. So it's real-time data coming back from the content server. And this is configurable for a number of different use cases. If you have one-box providers for a CRM or an ERP system, you can also expose those on this results page. Excuse me. So the next thing I want to do is highlight another capability of the GSA. Sometimes, excuse me, you're not looking for content, you're looking for people. You need to ask a question or collaborate with someone. So I'm going to go ahead and search for management, and just to illustrate something, I'm going to spell it wrong. Now you see the GSA asks me, do I mean management? Well, yes, I do. Now I go ahead and search for management. Again, I get a user added result, some results here, but I also get people who are in management. And so what I can do is right from WebCenter content, I can see information from an outside system, from Active Directory. And I can go ahead and click through these people. I can see their contact information, their phone number. I can send them an email very easily, all in one place. And in our case, this information is coming out of Active Directory. But this could really be surfaced from any repository that you have that contains user profile information. So SharePoint profiles, some other type of third-party system. And this takes advantage of Google's expert search functionality and then exposes that inside a WebCenter to provide one place to go to find all information. And so people search is one way to expose information from other systems. The other thing I want to show here is if I go ahead and search for project management, you're going to see, again, a similar results page. But if I know in my organization, project data exists in more than one place. So it exists inside a WebCenter, but it also exists in SharePoint project sites or departmental file systems. And I want to find all of that information. We allow you to do that right inside the context of WebCenter. So the GSA has something called collections. These are segments of content that are indexed. So we allow you to expose any of those. So in this case, if I'm looking for project data, I want to see information from SharePoint. I want to see information from departmental file systems. And this could be other repositories you have. This could be other instances of WebCenter content, which is actually what I have here with marketing collateral. So I'm going to go ahead and update my results. And what you see now is different icons. The red Oracle icon indicates things that are coming out of Oracle Web Center. We also have things coming out of the file system and coming out of SharePoint. And we see that all with one shared relevance across all those systems. So what I can do now is use previews. So I can see a preview of my item in Web Center content, but I can also see previews right inside of Web Center from these items coming from other systems. So this is a team handbook that's on the file system. And this is the project plan that's inside of SharePoint. And I can look at that content and see that information all in one place inside of Web Center. So the last thing I want to mention is it's kind of hard to show relevance in a demo, but this is Google Relevance. So all the things I mentioned before, with the 200 signals, things like synonyms, setting words equal to each other, you're going to get all of that reflected back when you do your searches. And so that's a number of ways you're helping provide the most relevant information to users as quickly as possible. And this does support things like the self-learning score. So every time I click on something inside of Web Center, it's telling the GSA this is where they clicked, this is the third thing down, it was on page 1, it was on page 2. And so your relevance is going to continue to improve over time the more people use it. Switch back over here to the presentation. So I just kind of want to summarize what you just saw. So everything that you just saw was happening right inside of Web Center content. It was kind of funny. I did a demo for someone here internally, and about halfway through they said, whoa, wait, we're inside Web Center. And I said, yep, we are. And so they actually thought we were on the Google Search Appliance or on Google doing these searches, and it's all happening right inside of Web Center. And some of the things that we're pointing out are type ahead, document previews. Everything in bold here is new in 3.0. So for those of you on the call who have 2.0 or the 2.5, these are some of the new things you can take advantage of with the upgrade. Dynamic navigation, that's the facets on the left-hand column. Search category segments, that's the able to filter across the top, say I only want my keywords to be my title. Advanced search, extending result contribution to users with user-added results, as well as related queries, making suggestions for other things you might want to search for. One-box modules, people search, and then things like spell check and having multi-repository search, so being able to expose items from not only Web Center, but perhaps across multiple Web Center content instances or SharePoint or a file system. So how do we actually do that? Part of this is there's really two major pieces. The first is the Google Search Appliance. And the Google Search Appliance is an actual hardware solution, an on-premise solution that Google sells. And this has their enterprise version of the Google search algorithm, and that makes that available to the enterprise. And you can actually index up to 1 million things on just one search appliance. And this provides that Google search experience for your internal systems and data. It provides things like the synonyms. It provides the type ahead. It provides the document previews and the relevancy algorithm to get this type of experience you would expect from Google.com. And the other major piece of that is what we're talking about here is the Fishbowl Connector version 3.0. And so what the connector brings to this piece is the ability for the GSA to actually index content from Web Center. So out of the box, the GSA cannot index content from Web Center. You need a connector to do that. And so the GSA connector is what allows that to happen. It also provides the security to be able to only provide users with the information that they should be able to see based on their permissions. It provides the incremental indexing capabilities. For those of you who are familiar with kind of the difference between crawling and feeding, the search appliance is going to feed in incremental updates to content. So that's going to give you better performance, and it's going to help every time something changes, the connector is going to be aware of that. It's going to feed that into the index. You're getting those updates. And it's going to also feed in the metadata. So obviously with Web Center content, metadata is very important, and you want to be able to leverage that and take advantage of that when you're performing searches, both through the regular indexing as well as exposing it for things like dynamic navigation. So the connector is going to allow you to do that. And then it's really providing that search experience through Web Center content. So the UI that I showed in the demo, that's the UI that you get out of the box, ready to use with Oracle Web Center content and the GSA when you install the connector. So in addition to that kind of out-of-the-box UI that you get, the other thing that Fishbowl includes with the product is a developer API. And that's going to let you expose all the things that we showed in the demo. So again, the previews, type ahead, dynamic navigation. It It's going to let you expose that from the GSA in other places, such as Site Studio websites or Oracle Web Center portal. And so we provide a fully documented API on how to integrate the GSA with those other Web Center-based systems to provide search results on an intranet or on a public website using standard content server development techniques, service calls, IDOC script. So you can customize standard Web Center, but you can also expose it on your website or inside of your portal. And we've worked with a number of customers to help them do that. So what else is new in 3.0? I showed most of the UI changes during the demo, but there's also some things happening behind the scenes. And so one of those is some changes and some added flexibility for dealing with security and secure searches. So one of those is the ability to feed in security authorization information or policy ACLs to the GSA during indexing. You can do this with specific values, or you can do this with metadata. And what this really is going to allow is for you to get a lot better search performance, because the GSA already will know when someone searches what content they have access to, and that way it doesn't have to go figure that out every time someone searches, and so you're going to get a lot better search performance. Google recommends that you do this whenever you can. Now, there's certain cases where, because of the complexity of content server security model, that's not always possible, and so we want to be able to support all those different scenarios. And so in the case where you can't feed them in, you can do the authorization at the time that someone does a query. So one of the other things that we have introduced support for in 3.0 is content server ACL. So if you're using the ACL users or aliases or roles that are part of the content server, you can now take advantage of those and take those into account when doing secure searches through the GSA. And the other new things that are happening behind the scenes are the ability to index display values from the content server. So if you have a option list with maybe internal and visible values, you can now index both the visible and the internal values to be able to use those when you're searching and to be able to expose those in things like dynamic navigation. And I showed a little bit in the demo how to use the content server as a one-box module. And so this is something new that we've introduced in version 3. We previously supported other one-box modules consuming those within the content server, but now we're actually providing the ability to use content server as a one-box module. And one of the ways I showed this, getting real-time information, for example, my content, things I've checked in, is this is configurable, so you can kind of set the query what the criteria should be based on your use case. You can have more than one of these per content server, if that makes sense. You could also have a one-box module on one content server pulling content out of another content server, perhaps transactional type data, invoices, or other types of information like that. You can be real-time pulling that in as a one box. And this can also expose information in the content server that's not indexed by the GSA. And the last thing I wanted to mention that's new in version 3 is version 3.0 does take advantage of Google's latest connector framework, which is version 3.0 of the Google Connector Manager framework. And so you're going to be getting all of Google's latest updates and changes and patches with this last update. So for those of you who already have the connector and you're going to be upgrading from version 2 or version 2.5, this is what the upgrade path would look like. It's really contacting Fishbowl Solutions, contacting support, and we can get you a new license of the 3.0 connector. And then what you're going to do is update the content server component, update the connector manager, and then reconfigure the connector in the GSA. And once you do that, you're going to be able to start taking advantage of some of the features we showed. So using the new UI. And I should mention here, if for one reason or another you want to upgrade and you don't want to switch over to the new UI right away, we do provide a configuration so you can do the upgrade and take advantage of the back-end benefits and keep the old UI around, so you kind of have flexibility to make that jump when it makes sense for your organization. But you can start taking advantage of things like document preview, user-added results. You can also start using those new features through the API, so using them on websites or inside the portal, as well as taking advantage of the new security benefits, such as feeding in authorization information to get the added performance that brings. So whether you're a new customer or existing customer, the GSA Connector 3.0 is supported on Google Search Appliance either 17 or 7, Google's latest release. Some of the things we're showing are specific to 7, so if you want to use those features, you'd have to use GSA 7, but it will run for customers who are still on 6.14, and this will work with Web Center content or UCM 10G or 11G. So in summary, what you've seen was really how we're looking to solve the Web Center search challenges, people being frustrated because they're spending too much time looking for content, things are getting lost. Make that easier by making search in Web Center more like search on Google and taking advantage of the capabilities Google offers and the GSA offers and bringing that into Web Center. Some of the ways we do that is with things like query interpretation and Google Relevance, and then really transforming that presentation layer, transforming the search experience so that Web Center users get that right inside of Web Center content. And then on top of that, adding some enhanced security options and some enhanced flexibility for searches within Web Center. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take your questions.
And as you guys think about your questions, I'm going to open a poll actually and get your feedback on some of the challenges that you're having with the Google Search Appliance or the search within your organization. So 1 second here so I can open the poll. So the question that we're asking here is, what value could the use of the GSA in your organization really help you uncover and have benefit from? It's one of those where you look at today your current state. You might be a Web Center admin. You have users coming to you saying, look, I just can't find anything in the system. So there might be some complaints around that. There's also the piece where if you yourself are doing searches within Web Center, you're frustrated as well, just not being able to find content. So you might be storing stuff to your local drive or things like that. Also, there's just the fact that there's a lot of duplication of effort going on. So there's users recreating content. So maybe when you actually do a search and you're seeing duplicate items checked into the content server, you're realizing that maybe the searches, people that are not finding information right away the first time are recreating some content that was already there. And then also the ability, and this was the most powerful feature that I think Kim shared, is that the ability right from Web Center to search multiple repositories. So, for me, myself, it's like I think about going into Web Center and searching for all the content that exists in my organization directly from the context of Web Center, which I have open and use every day. That's very powerful stuff when you consider the time that you would spend going to those various systems, SharePoint, other repositories, or even the file system to try and find relevant content to do your job or to share with someone in your organization. So I'm going to be closing the poll here in just a few seconds. It looks like everyone has had a chance to respond. It looks like because you could answer, you could have multiple answers with this. So the most popular answer, though, is allow users to easily find content from multiple repositories. I mean, again, I just mentioned that one. To me, that is one of the most powerful features with the Google Search Appliance and our new version. But also, it's reduced time spent searching for content in general. So Kim shared some data that Google provided and that industry data provided regarding the amount of time lost and how many days per week actually users are spending just searching for information instead of doing their daily tasks. So if you think about just getting ahead with your work, and if you could find information, the right information the first time, every time, you could start to get ahead a little bit in the work that you're doing in your organization. So with that, I'm going to close the poll, and we're going to sort through our list of questions. So the first question here is, does this suggestions bot, let me make sure I read this correctly, does suggestions also include content that is not public? So they go on to say, in a scenario where I have users from distinct companies using the same GSA, I don't want suggestions related to the company, in this case company A, to be presented to users from company B.
Yep, so the GSA does allow you to set up what they call front end, and so that allows you to have specific suggestions for each of those different kind of search scenarios. And we actually do this at Fishbowl. We use the GSA on our internal intranet as well as our public-facing website. And we use the same GSA to do that, but we have separate front ends. So people internally are searching for customer names and things like that. We don't want that on our public website. And so we are able to separate those out really easily by having them on separate front ends, and so then you're going to get separate suggestions. So yep, you can do that.
So one obvious question, I think, with our webinar today, giving the webinar, announcing it, is GSA 3.0, Fishbowl Solutions Connector, GSA 3.0. It's available today, right, Kim? Mm-hmm. So we announced the release today, so it is available. And so contact your Fishbowl representative. I
do see a question here. If your support is current, so if your Fishbowl Connector support is current, the upgrade is free. So that is part of the upgrade. This upgrade is part of what you get for your maintenance. So I see someone asked that question, and the answer is yes, that is free.
Okay.
There's a question, how is it licensed? The connector is licensed per content server per instance. So if you want to search content from one server, you need one license, multiple servers, multiple licenses, and then we have discounted licenses for dev and prod. The GSA itself is licensed based on, it's actually a lease process, so you lease it from Google for either 2 or 3 years, and that's based on how many documents you're actually indexing. So depending on how many things you want to index, is it 500,000 or is it 10 million? The GSA license is going to be based on the number of documents. So I'm not sure which one of those was meant by the question, but that's kind of how that works.
Another obvious one here that we should probably answer, Kim, is Fishbowl a GSA reseller? So can someone actually buy the appliance from Fishbowl Solutions?
Yep, and I'm guessing that went for Silver. But yes, we are a GSA reseller. That's part of our partnership with Google. So we can resell the GSA as well as sell the connector and provide the implementation services to do that.
Oh, we apologize. We forgot to close the poll there.
I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. There we go. So yes, we can resell the actual search appliance as well as the connector. And if you want services to help get that going, we can certainly do that as well. There's a question that says, is it possible to set up several of these search utilities and limit each one to a specific location? If the asker of that question could provide a little bit more context, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking with that question. We do have a couple of pricing-specific questions, so I will have someone follow you up with you right after the webinar and get some information about your environment, and then they can give you a very specific answer. Okay, I think I get the question that was being asked earlier, is wanting to limit areas of search. So I believe what...
Could you repeat the whole question, Kim?
Yeah, so I think what the question is asking is, is it possible to limit the scope of these different search tools and have each one search certain things? Yeah, not necessarily search everything. So the answer to that is yes, absolutely. You can do that in a couple of different ways. If you're talking specifically WebCenter, when you set up the connector, you can actually set up multiple kind of instances of a connection between the search appliance and WebCenter content, and each one of those can have a specific definition for what you want to index. So if you only want to index content, for example, from a specific website with a website ID, or if you want to index content from here, it says a specific folder someone's asking, you could set it up to do that. So yes, you can certainly limit it down that way. And you can also limit, when I showed like the collections, you can limit which collections you expose inside a WebCenter. So when I was showing like SharePoint and file systems, if you're using those things maybe other places, any of them that are available, you can choose whether or not you want to show those inside a WebCenter. So you have that flexibility.
So there's another question. Does Content Tracker log the preview event?
Yeah, it does. Yep, so Content Tracker will log when someone views the preview of a document.
So another obvious one that I wanted to point out to the listeners still is the demo Kim gave was actually the end user perspective. So there's a question about what was shown. Was that the administrative web page, or is that the actual what the end user would see? And Kim showed a little administrative function, but most of it was the end user, what they can actually do and benefit from the search capabilities that Google provides. So there's another question, is there an integration with Oracle security products, including Oracle IAM, OID, etc.?
Yeah, I can answer that. The Google Search Appliance has a very flexible capability to integrate with a number of security products. It has the ability to integrate with LDAP directories, with other single sign-on products, with SAML providers, and the connector itself actually is another way that the appliance can be used to authenticate and authorize directly with the content server. So if you have your content server set up to use OID, for instance, you're able to use the connector in a lot of cases to provide that authentication and authorization information right through WebCenter content. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. I think we'll take one or two more here. They're still coming in, so again, we appreciate everyone asking the questions. Let's see here. These are all really good questions. One thing I'll add as well, so any of the questions we do not get to today, we will actually have a blog article that will do the follow-up Q&A on there as well, so that's on the Fishbowl C4 blog. Again, for any registrants of the webinar, they'll get a link to that blog as well when we send out the thank you for registering, attending with the recording. So let's see here. Kim, you already answered the support, if they're current on support.
Yep, so if you're on support.
So there's probably a lot of these questions that we would want to kind of answer in more detail, maybe take offline.
There's a question, do you have an Oracle Enterprise search comparison with GSA white paper? We don't currently have a white paper, although I'll say that's a good idea. But we do have quite a bit of different materials around that topic, so I can follow up with you after the webinar, see if we can answer your questions, if there's something specific you're wondering about. Otherwise, there's not a link right off the bat that I can direct you to for that. And the last question I think here is about Portal. So does this work with WebCenter Portal? And the way I would answer that is yes, in a lot of cases. We have actually customers in production using this with WebCenter Portal and doing that through the API. So a lot of times with the resources of a WebCenter Portal, the content is actually being stored in WebCenter content. And so the connector will allow you to index that, and then using our API, you can get at that through the portal. And one of the other things I'll just mention around that topic is we also have some additional kind of jump start around integrating with the portal that we can provide to make that process and integration happen even more quickly. And we also have a demo of the GSA running with the portal in-house here. So if that's something that you're interested in, Portal, Site Studio, or diving in deeper to the actual GSA inside of WebCenter itself, certainly send an email to Fishbowl Solutions. You can do info@fishbowlsolutions.com, and me or someone else here would be happy to walk you through some of those different scenarios and take a look at how to make that happen.
Great, Kim, and I think with that we're going to wrap it up. So again, thanks, Kim. Great job. We want to thank everyone for attending today. There's more information on our website, and again, we'll be providing the recording of this webinar and other supporting materials to the registrants. So again, thanks for attending, and we hope that you have a great day. Thanks.